Hello, and welcome to the wrap-up of our June 5th, 2023 Mojave County Board of Supervisors meeting. It was a long one, and here to talk about it in the wrap-up is Supervisor Hildy Angus. It was long.
It was a long one. We've had longer.
Yeah.
But, and it was interesting because it was the budget, and those are the ones that usually are long, and we had a very robust discussion about that.
Yes.
I'll be honest to tell you, I wasn't expecting to be speaking about the possibility of a sales tax, but I'm glad we're talking about it. Taxes are inevitable, and after working here at the county for 10 years, if anyone could believe that, 10 years, I think that I know that our county is a very well-run conservative county. We'd make do with just a property tax. I try to tell people this all the time. We are one of the few counties, if any, we might be the only county that has only a property tax, and it's a relatively low property tax.
It is.
And not a sales tax. Now, sales tax is important in my estimation because it's a fairer tax. Some people may disagree with me on that because everybody pays into it, not just people who own property. So you're talking about funding law enforcement, infrastructure, roads, anything that has to do with the well-running and maintenance of a county. And it has fallen historically here in Mojave County on the backs of the property owners. And I just don't think that's fair.
But we cannot have a quarter cent sales tax without all five supervisors.
True. That is true. And I'm hoping that maybe after the public hears the discussion that we had about it, because I do believe that people understand. They're not just, we can't, no taxes, no taxes. People understand you need taxes. And this particular tax would only go to law enforcement. Like in 1999, this board, I wasn't on it, but Supervisor Johnson was, they've installed a quarter-cent sales tax for buildings and capital improvements. And what a successful quarter-cent sales tax that was. I mean, it built this building, it built our new jail. We were mandated to do it. But this is what happens when you take those little quarter cents. It adds up, right?
Yeah.
So this one that was proposed today, again, I was not aware it was going to be proposed till very late last week, so I didn't have that much time to really do my research on it. Would just go to law enforcement. And I am a huge advocate and proponent of our law enforcement. I believe it is the biggest job of county government is to keep the law and order. And especially in a county like ours that is so huge land-wise, of course, we say this all the time, the 5th largest in the country. And we go all the way up. So we have to take care of a large area. And given all the, I want to say restrictions, but all the limitations that we have at us these days, inflation, it's always been difficult to get law enforcement to come here because we historically don't pay as well as the other counties do. And in this day and age, everyone's looking for that extra dollar. They just are. So whereas maybe in the past, because our cost of living is a little lower and everything, we weren't competing with, let's say, Coconino because it's much more expensive to live there. We are now. We're competing everywhere. And that has thrown a real big wrench into law enforcement. So I believe that we have to find a way to fund that.
We are at a stalemate until June 19th,
We're at
right?
a stalemate till June 19th. So we could, there's two separate things. We have a tentative budget that statutorily we must pass by a certain date. And that was presented to us today. We are okay this year. That's what was presented to us. But going forward, we're not going to be at the end of this year, we're not going to be at 18 million under. We're not. We have a $15 million contingency. It was brought up today just to be proactive, so knowing that we're going to have these issues down the road. And again, it's projection. I've heard these kinds of things before. Years ago, we were told that, we're going to be bankrupt, we're going to be doom and gloom, and then things changed. Everything changes. The difference between now and then and now is that we know what direction we're going in our economy, which in the past, we were still more hopeful. We are going in a downward trajectory for the economy, no matter what. We all know that. It's what all experts say. So we're trying to plan ahead. I will not, I said it today, just as Supervisor Gould said he wouldn't support the sales tax, I will not support a property tax when there is a simple solution as the sales tax and lower the property tax. I mean, how great would that we could still get rid of the deficit by putting in the quarter cent, lowering by, what is it, 25 cents almost, lowering?
Yes.
And that's it. Even if we raise the property tax by, I think, the maximum that was said today, we would still be in a deficit position. And then we'll be back at the table,
But these are the only two choices, right?
These are really the only two. We're talking about revenue streams.
Right.
We need revenue streams. If anybody out there has an idea, 928-201-5967, we want to hear. I mean, we can raise fees, we can do that, but you're talking $18 million, and that is not something, you can't cut your way to $18 million. I mean, I think that we have survived in kind of a lean workforce, a lean budget. We do a lot. Are there things we can cut? Of course, but I don't think it will get us anywhere near where we need to go. But I think that cuts have to be all part of it, if that's the direction that we have to go. Because we have to show our residents that we're not just going to come and ask them for money every time this happens, that we're going to do stuff that we can do. But as I understand it, at this point, there's very little we can do.
All right, the budget, big thing, again, June 19th, the board meeting. Hopefully everything will be resolved at that point. Meanwhile, there was another issue that had a lot of people involved, very contentious, over in the Topak area, a rezone. And you were kind of the deciding vote on that today. Can you tell us what happened there?
This has been a long, arduous, contentious journey, and I've learned a lot from it. When they came before us the first time, I had the information I had, and I say this all the time, and it sounds like a cop-out, but it's not true. My district is Bullhead City. When we have zoning issues, it goes to the city council. So all these other rezones we vote on are in other supervisory districts. Mm-hmm. This one happened to be in District 5, and my policy has always been to vote along with the supervisor from that district, because they know, or hopefully know a lot more than I do. They're the ones who have to face the people. And Supervisor Gould had made a motion to approve that last one, and I voted with him. And then I was inundated with new information. And by the time we brought it back, it was a little late. I don't want to go into all sort of the procedural things that happened, but a lot of things transpired after, and I learned a lot more of information. And, Roger, when I first ran for office, I said, this is how I live my life. If I make a mistake, not only will I apologize, but I will do everything in my power to make it right. And that's what I think we did. That's what I know I did today. I know I made it right. I had to. It was, out of everything in the last 10 years we voted, and I've made some mistakes, this one really got to me, because I really was listening to what the people were saying.
And there were a lot of them.
And there were a lot behind these people. By the time, because so much has happened, this was the people who showed up today. And so as I understand it today, that and again, I don't understand what happened, because the developer was here, and I wish them luck. There was no bad guys, there's no villains in this. Everybody just, the landowners have property to sell. This is America, private property rights. The developer has a right to come in and build these things if it fits into our plan and into the zoning, but also there is a process for homeowners who live around there, and they did it. And they did it well. I say to people come to me because I'm known as a community activist, right? And they say, well, how do I address the government? You can't beat City Hall. And I'm like, yeah, you can, right? You organize, you petition, you get your best spokespeople front and center, and you never, ever, ever give up. Well, hats off to the people from Golden Shores. And I said that to them because you followed my playbook perfectly. And they were adamant and passionate. And so as a supervisor, I have to weigh all of that, and that's like a lot of the issues we were talking about today, quality of life, why we moved here. And although it would be very good tax revenue in a time we probably need it and all this stuff, at some point you have to weigh that quality of life and development. And there's a lot of development going on, and I think in the future we'll look back maybe and say, yeah, maybe that wasn't so good. But at this point, I could still affect the outcome. So we brought it back, and we don't do that often. We don't usually
That's right.
Overturn things that we did. This was special, and I feel good about it. I feel like I did the right thing today. This is just me as the supervisor from District 2.
All right.
I had the ability to do it.
Anything else you'd like to add?
There's one more thing.
Uh-huh.
If anybody was around in the beginning of the meeting, it was a long day. In the consent agenda, there was, everybody knows about ARPA money and that we divided it up by supervisory districts. And I've been doing smaller projects that for the benefit of people in my community. We had a terrible, terrible storm last Labor Day. And like the mayor, Steve D'Amico, said when he got up here, in 10 minutes it wiped out our entire city. It was devastating. Never, since I've been around, people who lived in Bullitt's 20, 30 years had never seen it. And MEC, Mojave Electric, they did an incredible job. It took, some people were back in a matter of 12 hours, but within 3 days, everybody was back. But it did show some holes we had in our emergency response. And one of them is that the only cooling station for people was in the far north side of town. And older people couldn't get there. So we put our heads together and I said, how can I help this? And Toby Cotter said, when we build our new senior center, I haven't budgeted in for a generator that we can use that senior center that everybody knows, the seniors, the most vulnerable population knows. It's right in the center of town. We can get people there. And I'd like to use that as the center, the cooling station for people if we have these kinds of problems. And I'm like, I can't think of a better use of money for, the better quality and the betterment of everybody in my district than that. So that was what that is. So I'm going to leave on a good note.
Very good note.
Yeah. And is there anything else you'd like to?
No, that's pretty good. A very good wrap up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Supervisor, yes, Supervisor Hildy Angus, and we'll be back with another wrap up following our June 19th meeting. Thank you.